following 4 Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
Hey, y'all. Cool. Yeah, so if you ever get a chance, it's on Hulu. The full series from season 1 to season 7 is on Hulu. So if you ever want to check it out, you should check out a couple episodes, see if you like it. I fell in love with the show after like 4 episodes. And then on top of that, oh, hey, y'all, how y'all doing? Cheap Pop Podcast. We're just kind of continuing a conversation we were having off air there. I'm hipping my boy here to, if y'all don't know about it, a show called Burn Notice. The show has run its course. It went for 7 seasons and it ended, I want to say, about 2014, 2015. But yeah, you get these smaller, intricate storylines that go on along with the overall arcing storyline. And I'm sorry, man, once again, just like with the Luke Wilson thing with Stargirl, anything that has Bruce Campbell in it, you can just take my money.
Bruce Campbell fucking bangs, bro. It's the shit.
For those of you guys out there who may not know who Bruce Campbell is, go and watch Ash vs. the Evil Dead, the TV show, or watch the movie Evil Dead, and you'll understand exactly how much of a national treasure Bruce Campbell is.
Actually, small thing I learned about him earlier this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but do you remember that Bruce Campbell was actually in the very first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire?
Yes, I forget the role that he played, but yes.
Actually, if you look at the name of his character, you can almost immediately realize that he was supposed to play Mysterio in Spider-Man 4.
Really?
The one that got axed. His on-screen personality, he was that like showman entertainer thing.
Oh yeah.
Mysterio's backstory, if you don't know, is that that was him. And then I forget what happened, but somewhere in between, he stopped being the showman and started using all that crazy shit to become Mysterio.
Oh, man.
They took that away from us, bro.
Bruce Campbell is Mysterio. Don't get me wrong. Jake Gyllenhaal did an okay job. I'm not knocking what he did, but Bruce Campbell,
though.
Oh, all right. So, all right, man, yeah, that's enough reminiscing on that. I'm gonna drive myself into depression thinking about that. All right, so
what could have been?
For those of you guys who haven't really been listening recently, me and Alpha have made a decision that we're going to rewatch what is affectionately known nowadays as ATLA. But us originals call it Avatar: The Last Airbender. A great series
for the long term.
Yeah. It's one of those series that will stand the test of time no matter what. And we'll get into this after we discuss this first season. But I've been seeing a lot of people basically claiming that Legend of Korra was a better series. So now it's got me having to watch Legend of Korra because I want to see what's going on with this.
Okay. Well, you want to dive into the
first
DC
season
stuff first?
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and dig that.
Are we gonna do Avatar first?
No, let's do the DC stuff first. All right. First and foremost, for those of you guys who have not been watching, due to COVID-19, pretty much every show on the CW, with an exception for Legends of Tomorrow, was cut short. Basically, they had their season finales before they really wanted to have their season finales. Legends is the only one that got to wrap full. So I have a feeling that Supergirl and Batwoman left things on the table, so to speak. Okay, in the sense of further parts of the story that they wanted to tell, after the fact, after this season finale. So let's get to the Supergirl season finale. This whole season really has been about, to compare it, for those of you who have watched Flash, and I know that you've watched Flash, brother, for those of you who have watched Flash, you'll remember, after the Flashpoint event, when Barry goes back in time and changes and kills his mother, almost that entire next season or half season, all dealt with the aftermath of that. You know what I'm saying? It all dealt with the aftermath of Flashpoint. Well, this season of Supergirl has kind of, in the very beginning it wasn't, it was on its own thing, but everything post-Crisis has been dealing with the effects of Crisis. Okay? On the Supergirl world. Little things, like in this particular Earth, like little things, like Lana actually remembers the previous Earth and everything that happened on the previous Earth. Lana Luthor. Okay? But in this one, I forgot what episode it was, but there's an episode pre-Crisis where Kara goes back in time and kind of fixes it. And so Lana Luthor now knows that she's Supergirl. And it kind of screwed their relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of screwed their relationship. They really weren't friends anymore. But in this season finale, you get to see that whole kind of storyline come to a culmination where they both kind of realize, like, look, like, we got bigger fish to fry. You know, and this really isn't that big of a deal. You know, so let's do this. And they're in the process of trying to take down Lex Luthor and Leviathan. Long story short, Leviathan releases... Okay, so here's the funny thing about it. We're going to be talking Avatar a little bit later. This episode of Supergirl, and you'll see when you get to this season, season 5, involves an earthbender, a waterbender, and not an earth, and a firebender. Technically a firebender because she can bend lightning. So that's just the evolution of firebending. Like, they go from being able to do fire to being able to control lightning.
Yeah, it becomes a small branch of firebending.
Right. So basically, yeah, they had 4 benders that are a part of this group called Leviathan, these gods, that basically came to attack Earth. And Alex now has a super suit. Alex Danvers, which is Kara's sister, now has a super suit, which is hella badass. But her... The White Martian, I don't know if you remember the earlier seasons of Supergirl, but there was a White Martian that when she turned into her human form, she was a black woman that was on and off with John Jones.
Right.
She returns to help them fight Leviathan. And it's her, John Jones, Alex, and so on and so forth, fighting Leviathan and fighting these, what I call benders. Like, they're gods. Like, one's the god of earth, one's the god of lightning, so on and so forth. But I call them benders. But the whole thing is about them fighting. Right. Yeah, exactly. But Brainy actually ends up with another plan where Brainy helps bring Leviathan to the forefront, but then Brainy himself ends up stopping Leviathan because he does basically what Brainiac 5 does to, what was the name of that? It's not Argon. Damn it. Can't think of the name of the city.
Argon?
Is it Argon City? The Krypton city that got shrunk by Brainiac?
Oh, shit. And
put into the bottle?
Pretty sure it is.
Yeah. Argo City. Because they make it large again, but they put it out into space, and that's the city that Superman keeps going to. Right? So, Argo City, he does basically what Brainiac 5 does to Argo City, except he does it to these gods. And basically what he does is he uploads this code to shrink them. Right? To shrink them and put them in stasis in the bottle. And he actually succeeds. But there's a problem. He pretty much did exactly what Lex Luthor wanted him to do. To get Leviathan out of the way. And gave Lex Luthor, because basically now that container, that the stasis container they're in, because of all the power in it from them, now basically becomes like a gigantic battery. That it looks like Lex is going to be using to try to power something to destroy the world.
Fucking Chad Lex. Look at that shit.
Exactly.
4D chess right there. So
it's great, and it's awesome that he does it, but the problem with it is I have this feeling that we were supposed to see that play out. Mm-hmm. But instead it gets shut down, or it gets left as a cliffhanger for next season.
Fuck, man. COVID ruined everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Can't have my Supergirl finale.
Couldn't have a Flash finale.
Can't have wrestling. Look at this.
Anyway, all right. So on to Batwoman. Batwoman's finale was kind of humdrum. I'm not gonna lie. It really wasn't all that spectacular until the very, very last scene. It was great and all because it was hilarious because friggin' basically Batwoman's dad, Kate Kane's dad, the leader of the Crows, basically damn near tried to kill his own daughter and didn't even know it. He told Batwoman the next time that we meet, it's going to be war. Right? So next time they meet, Batwoman finds herself standing in the middle of a stadium surrounded by Crow soldiers and her dad, and they all decide to just open fire on her. Which, okay, once again, not one to talk about the reality of a scene in a television series. Batwoman's outfit is bulletproof. So that means if you shoot her, the bullet's going to bounce off, correct? So, if the bullets bounce off and there's nothing but Crow officers standing around her, doesn't that mean that the bullets are going to bounce off and hit one of the Crow officers, especially if they're firing fully automatic weapons at her? I'm just saying. No, I'm just saying.
Fuck yourself, bro. They fuck themselves.
But so I'll leave it at that.
Not knowing she's a fucking reflective surface.
You know? So okay. So needless to say, he shoots at her, she disappears, so on and so forth. But what I mean by shit got good in the last scene shows Red Alice sitting there talking to somebody. You don't really know who he is. You come to figure out based off of their conversation that it's Hush, right?
Oh, fuck.
And she makes one comment that oh man, that left me smiling. She says, "So, just because what she say? She goes, just because I gave you a new face and you look like Bruce Wayne doesn't mean we can't have a little fun." So basically, the beginning of next season is about to be Red Alice releasing Hush onto Gotham, but he's portraying that he's Bruce Wayne.
You know how Hush was like introduced for the first time, right?
No, I don't. I really, to be honest with you, I had never heard of the character before the show.
Oh shit, you don't? I fucking love Hush as a character. Every iteration of him is really dope. But it basically goes that Thomas Elliot was this little kid that was really, really close to Bruce Wayne when he was a kid, right? Like Bruce Wayne's only real friend.
Okay.
The Elliots and the Waynes were like two of the richest families in all of Gotham.
Okay.
When suddenly both of Thomas Elliot's parents have a really fucked up car crash and they both die.
Okay.
But one of them survives purely because I think Bruce Wayne's dad paid for the whole fucking thing, like every single operation, just to get them back to a living state again so that they could take care of what would become Hush.
Right.
And they would later find out that Hush had planned the whole thing and he had wanted his parents to die and set them up for death so he could take the inheritance.
Damn.
And so, exactly, he grows up and then he's this like master surgeon and like this perfect biologist and just Dr. Supreme.
Yeah.
And his first thing is he, of course, because he knows who Batman is, of course, right? He takes Bruce Wayne's face, and this is how he's introduced. So we get introduced to what is essentially just another Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
And then it reveals that it's just Thomas Elliot trying to basically become Bruce Wayne, murder him, and become the Batman.
So 9 chances okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, every iteration of Hush starts with basically the same story of him just trying to become Bruce Wayne by basically taking his face.
Okay, so I have a feeling that some of that is going to be involved in this next story, in this next season of Batwoman. except they'll probably replace Batwoman or Batman with Batwoman. Not that he's trying to be Batwoman, but that he's trying to get rid of Batwoman, Kate Kane, and become Batman. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. But it's interesting.
I dig that shit.
Interesting. So now let's get to a couple of the topics surrounding the show, or the topics surrounding the show's main actress, the one, the only, the beautiful, the incomparable, the lovely Miss Ruby Rose, has decided to leave the show. So yes, you heard me right. I believe we discussed this for a little bit on a previous episode, but the main character of the show, Batwoman, will be recast. Nothing has been released yet as to why, like what happened with her departure, but it's believed that it had something to do, or it surrounded an accident that she had on set during one of the shows, where she damn near broke her neck. Friend of the show and close friend of mine, Jamil, an owner of NPC Comics, me and him were discussing it, and he was telling me that, like, I guess at the very beginning of the show, Ruby Rose was doing all of her own stunts. All of the fight scenes, all of her own stunts, everything. But I guess there was an accident on set, and she damn near broke her neck. And ever since then, they've been using body doubles and stand-ins for the fight scenes. And they're beginning to believe, and he personally believes, and I've read it in a couple other places too, that the thought process is that she got, it was too close for comfort, and she's just no longer comfortable doing the show. So,
well, that's certainly, I would think it's fair, only because that's progressively more and more dangerous as things get higher value. You know, we saw, I don't know if you heard, I believe in the case of Deadpool 2, we saw a stunt double actually die from a motorcycle accident.
Really?
And yeah, coming along, the Domino actress, her body double got fucking killed. Damn. And so I wouldn't exactly blame someone for being afraid of that.
Yeah.
But it could be anything, you know. We'll discuss later on Amber Heard choosing another choice over being Aquawoman again. I mean, Aquawoman, what the fuck? Queen Mira.
Queen Mira.
Being Queen Mira again. But if that is the case, then I can't say I blame her.
Yeah. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see who they choose to replace her with, because CW has come out and outwardly said that they 1000% want to pick an actor or actress from the LGBTQ community. Because, you know, they feel that representation matters, you know, and so if you're going to have a character be a lesbian, you know, you should choose somebody from the LGBTQ community. There's enough actresses out there in that community to be able to find one to play the part. You know, it's just like to be honest with you, to sidetrack real quick, it's just like why people have such an issue with white actors playing Asian characters or playing this character of a different race or whatever like that. And the reason why, folks, and it's point blank and simple to say, just like I just said about the LGBTQ community, there are too many actors out there that are that particular race, creed, culture that you could use to play the part, without going out and getting somebody from a different culture to play the part. You know, I
agree. It is a matter of authenticity and sticking to the source material.
You know, Crazy Rich Asians, would that have been near as popular of a movie if half the actors and actresses that played it were white? No, it wouldn't, because it would have been an insult to the Asian culture. But you cast, you know, 100 Asians to play the part, and you got a hit movie that's getting put up for Oscars. You know, so but okay, so
as long as it is fitting. Yeah, and I believe we've talked all about this before. Like, Storm should stay Storm.
Yep.
And yeah, I believe it's fair.
Well, I hate to say it.
As long as it isn't something that's openly, like, shoehorned in, though. That's my thing. I don't want them to be like, you know, we're only going to look for someone, and the only person who is allowed to be Batwoman is a lesbian. That then I have a little bit of an issue for it. But if it's just a matter of authenticity, then what's the problem with it? You know?
Right. Well, I think really the only reason why they're choosing like to stick with a lesbian actress is just because of the fact that the character itself is lesbian. Not to say that a straight person can't play a lesbian.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But if a person is a part of that community, you would much rather see somebody from your own community playing the part than somebody else who's acting the part. You know, you can get a lot more realism out of those tense moments, you know, with that kind of stuff with somebody who's actually lived through this type of stuff than you can with somebody who hasn't. Not to say that actors can't act, but it's just a little bit more realism.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like I said, like Menace to Society, with that movie has been Boys in Hood, would those movies have been as impactful or powerful as they were if it was all white actors playing those parts? Nah.
Absolutely not.
You know,
they chose Ice Cube and they chose fucking Morphine.
Yep.
Fucking Morpheus.
Yeah.
They chose those people because they probably understood that struggle and they understood what it was like to be in those positions to begin with.
Right. So, all right. So moving on to Legends. Legends is always like a comedy block with a little bit of seriousness to it. It's the way the show has been from the get-go. That's the way the comic book kind of reads. You know, it's like a comedy thing. But this particular episode of Legends was pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. A lot of plot twists, a lot of plot turns, but my favorite part about it was the zombies. Because not only were they zombies, but they were like 28 days later zombies. Like they'd sniff you out from like 30 feet away, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you look up and they're all charging towards you. You know, like they're not slow walking, Night of the Living Dead type zombies, you know, dragging a leg. Yeah. Oh no, these motherfuckers got track speed.
Running. I am Legend style. Fear them.
Yes, exactly. But overall, it made for a really good episode. Like I said, Legends actually got to finish their thing, so their season hasn't ended yet because they started so late. They didn't start until after Arrow finished. But let me just tell you that this episode of Legends was great because they pretty much killed off every major character in the show so far in that one episode. There's like maybe 3 of the Legends left alive at this point. Pretty much all the rest of them have died at some point during that episode. So I'm interested to see how, because at the end of this episode, Charlie, the third of the sisters, turned on the Legends, or at least she seemed to turn on the Legends and start working with the sisters. That's how we ended the last episode. So what I think is going to happen is that she's double-crossing the sisters. And she's going to double-cross the sisters, and once they start using the loom, she's going to bring back all of the Legends.
Infinity War style. I feel it.
So
that's good though. I like it. I'm always interested in that stuff. I'm a big fan of the Marvel Zombies collection and the Deceased collection, which is much newer, which I absolutely recommend.
Nice. I'll say
you literally get to watch Starfire and the Red Hood fight zombie versions of superheroes. If that is not salivating to you as a nerd, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'll have to pick that up. I'll say another interesting thing that came through it is that Zari, for those of you who don't know who Zari is, she kind of came in late last season or early last season, and she was with them for 2 seasons, and then they switched her out at the beginning of this season because of some events that happened when they saved Nate's life at the end of last season. When they saved Nate's life, it changed the timeline, because when they changed the timeline, Zari's whole thing was, in her original timeline, that her twin brother had died. And she was doing everything that she was doing to try to help him out, or in honor of his memory, right?
Okay.
Well, when they did what they did, I forget what the specifics were. They did what they did at the end of last season that saved Nate's life. They changed the past, therefore changing her future, because her brother ended up living. Well, when her brother ended up living, her brother ended up being the one that joined the Legends. that carried the totem and joined the legend.
Dope.
So immediately as they're sitting there, she's sitting there, they're all seeing, all of a sudden, poof, she turns into her brother. And nobody remembers that she used to be, that her brother used to be her. So like everybody's like, yeah. So everybody's talking to her brother like he's been there the whole time. And then throughout this season, they figure out that she was a part of the storyline because he actually ends up bringing her. Because it's funny, she doesn't end up becoming a hacker and a legend, right? In the new storyline because her brother lives. So she ends up becoming like this Instagram model person, like, who has this like Instagram and social media empire that she's like running.
Oh, that's so fucking cool.
And like she's like this completely self-centered, like doesn't worry about anybody else, doesn't give a shit about anybody else. But then eventually throughout this season, she ends up meeting her old self from the other timeline and realizing that she has a lot more inside of her than what she thinks. And so eventually she becomes kind of like the old Zari, but still she has that diva-ish attitude. But the funny thing about it is that I noticed chemistry between her and Constantine pretty much from the moment that they stepped on the screen together. And this last episode, we finally saw that come to fruition. Her and Constantine end up sleeping together. Which, by the way, it gets kind of confusing with Constantine. Because one episode, he's in love with some dude. The next episode, he's sleeping with a chick. Like, I get that he's bi, but damn.
It's funny as shit, dude. Have you seen the fucking... In the animated Harley Quinn show, the one that is fucking an absolute banger. It's funny as
DC
shit.
Universe?
But yeah, they Constantine and I think Poison Ivy or Catwoman, they walk into a room, right?
Uh-huh.
And there is King Shark. If you don't know who that is from the Suicide Squad, he's like Killer Croc, except he's a fucking shark.
He's made an appearance on Flash.
Damn right.
Yeah.
There you go. But you got King Shark and Harley Quinn standing next to each other, right? Constantine and whoever he's with, they walk into the room, and he's like, "Oh fuck, don't say anything. That's my ex over there." And Poison Ivy or whoever is like, "Harley, dude, that's pretty low. That's some low hanging fruit." And then King Shark winks at him.
Oh, that's tight. That's tight. Yeah, I like that. I'm telling you, dude, like, I love the fact that Constantine is on Legends, but they should have given him his own show. Like, they really should have given him his own show. Like, don't get me wrong. I liked Keanu Reeves as Constantine. I thought he played the part well, but this dude, I can't think of the name of the actor, but this dude who plays Constantine on Legends, he definitely deserves his own show. He plays the part hella well. But yeah, so
he does it fucking picture perfectly.
Exactly.
Yes,
so, but overall, great episode of Legends. Can't wait till next week for the next episode. Let's jump into Stargirl real quick, and then we'll get to the other DC stuff. Stargirl debuted this week. Great opening episode. They kind of fast-tracked everything where, like, they didn't wait 2 or 3 episodes for her to find the staff and kind of get told the story. All of this happens in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was quite impressed with how they moved the story along. Can't wait till they start introducing the actual villains. Because, with superheroes, you got to do the whole, they're just kind of fighting crime around their neighborhood before you start introducing supervillains.
So you get to the good shit.
Yes. But they've already shown who some of the main villains are going to be this season in the commercials, and I'm liking where they're heading with it. And like I said earlier, anything with Luke Wilson in it, take my money. That's my dog right there. And he plays Stargirl's father. It's funny, he plays Stargirl's father, but I can't think of his name, but he also plays the former Starman, right? Which would have been Stargirl's father, the former Starman. He also is his sidekick. That's why he's in possession of the staff. So Luke Wilson is Starman's sidekick. And he's the one that kind of helps. Yeah. So he's the one that kind of helps Stargirl into her new role. And I was like, right on. Right fucking on.
I like that.
So, but yeah, I would suggest checking it
I'm
out.
a huge fan of. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you saying?
I'm a huge fan of Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
The comic version, at least, and like from what I've seen, it feels like Stargirl is everything I wanted Brie Larson's version of Captain Marvel to be. You know, at least from what I've seen.
I can see what you're saying. I can definitely see what you're saying. Oh, by the way, just side note here, folks. If you're a Luke Wilson fan and you haven't seen this movie, it's a movie with Laura Pepperon and Luke Wilson. It's called Bong Water. It's got Jack Black in it as well. And it's possibly one of the best and funniest fucking movies that you will ever see in your fucking life. I own it on DVD. I just haven't brought it out of storage yet. The movie's excellent. So if you ever get a chance to watch it, watch it. Look it up, watch it.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong with raunchy Jack Black. Cannot go wrong.
If anything, just for this one scene, first and foremost, it does have a lot of drug usage in the movie. Like, it's basically about this dude who sells pot by the pound. You know, so there's a lot of drug uses. Andy Dick's in the movie too. He plays Luke Wilson's gay, like one of his gay friends.
That's fucking great.
Yeah, but there's a scene when he's in the woods with Jack Black, right? Jack Black is this major drug dealer who basically brings people out to his ranch, and they do shrooms and acid and smoke weed and drink and all this, right? But there's a scene where Jack Black has led everybody else in the camp off on this walk. Luke Wilson's at the camp by himself. Now, mind you, Luke Wilson's on a couple of hits of acid and some shrooms, so he's like hallucinating like a motherfucker, right? So Luke Wilson's sitting there, and randomly his dead mother, comes walking out of the woods in like this sparkly dress. Obviously, he's hallucinating. And she sits down to play a game of Monopoly with him. Well, whoever chose to do this is my favorite person, because I did not notice this until tonight. And this is full disclosure, giving a little bit more information I like to give about myself on air, but in order to tell the story, I have to. I used to do E when I was younger, and I hadn't done it, but I was taking care of a friend of mine that had done it, right? That was on E, and she was rolling hella hard. And so I put on Bong Water, because that's always a good movie to watch when you're rolling and you're high or whatever. And so we're sitting there watching the movie, and it gets to this scene with Luke Wilson, and he's sitting there and he's playing, Monopoly or cards or whatever with his mother. All of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and I'm kind of like checking on my friend. I'm not really paying attention to the movie, and she kind of looks up out of her blankets and looks at the screen, and she's like, "What the fuck is wrong with that lemonade?" And I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, I've seen this movie like 50 times at this point. What the fuck are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with the..." And I look over. If you watch the scene and you look at the lemonade changes color about every minute and a half. It goes from yellow to green to blue to red. I had never noticed this until she said something when we were watching it, and I looked at the lemonade and went, "Wait a minute. Why the fuck is it... Wait a minute. What the hell?" It's just one of those type of things. It took your friend
sued off her ass to see that shit, bro.
Now I think about it every time I think about the movie. It's a great scene, but like, yeah, it's just little stuff like that makes the movie great. So if you ever get a chance, to the listeners out there, to you as well, Alpha, and if you can find it, it's a movie called Bong Water.
I will.
If you haven't found it, by the time I get it out of my storage, I'll lend it to you.
Swear to God, I'll find that shit.
Yeah, but it's such a great movie. But yeah, so if you like Luke Wilson, it's a great movie to have. It's just a little off movie that him, Andy Dick, Laura Pepperon, for those of you who don't know who Laura Pepperon is, she was on That 70s Show. Her biggest role outside of this was as Donna on That 70s Show.
Such a weird fucking cast.
Yeah,
I'm with it, though.
And then Andy Dick. So just check it out when you can. We'll talk about it when you do. But yeah, so that's just my little Luke Wilson moment there.
Oh yeah, man.
But okay, so big news out of DC right now is that HBO Max is getting an exclusive, as HBO Max is getting the Snyder cut of Justice League, which supposedly takes the whole movie in a different direction, and supposedly, I don't know if it's Melissa Benoit's Supergirl, but Supergirl plays a role in the Snyder cut.
Really?
of Justice League.
Huh. That I did not know.
I'm assuming it might have something to do with when during the sequence in which Superman dies and they're trying to bring him back. Like, because that's the only place where I can really see her fitting into the movie without it being like this egregious cameo.
Without it being super blatant, you know?
Yeah. You know, but other than that, like, I don't know. I doubt what I'll probably do is at least one of my 50 homeboys will end up getting HBO Max. And I'll just borrow his name and password just to watch the Snyder Cut. Because the only other thing I really would have wanted HBO Max for was The Big Bang Theory, and I've been buying up those seasons by the week. I have 8 of the 12 seasons on Amazon already, so.
Yeah, we're already there with that one.
Yeah, so I don't need.
But man, I'm hyped for it. Yeah. I'm one of the dudes that I didn't think that Justice League was egregiously horrible.
Yeah, no.
I wish it was better, and I wish there was a lot more depth to it, and I wish it wasn't so rushed.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's one of the worst superhero movies ever fucking made. But I'm really hopeful for the Snyder Cut.
I'll say it like this. No. Let's put it to you like this. No, Justice League is nowhere near the worst movie ever made, because that was Batman versus Superman. We'll say no, but I do agree with you. Like, and it's funny because I was actually explaining this to one of my friends earlier today when I was talking to her. I've learned to compartmentalize movies in a sense. I take the movie for what it is, and then I look at it in the bigger picture. If it's a solo standalone movie, I just take it for what it is, and I enjoy the movie for what it is. Okay? If it's supposed to be a part of a bigger picture, then I judge it separately as its own movie, and then I judge it as a part of the bigger picture. Here, now, I'll get to my thing with Justice League. Justice League as its own standalone movie was excellent. It's a great movie.
Yes.
Very well acted. Awesome. Very little flaws. As trying to fit it in as this first major cog, basically what the Avengers were to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it fucking blows in every sense of the word. And so that's what I tell people when I say, no, Justice League isn't a horrible movie, but as far as building a cinematic universe, it's a fucking shit show.
Mm-hmm. I talked about it a few weeks ago. If you remember, I talked about the difference between good storytelling and good world building.
Right.
One of those was just on one end of the spectrum and nowhere near the other.
Right. And so I want to see the Snyder Cut, like I said, because of the changes because like there's a couple of people that have told me like, nah, dude, like the things I've heard about the Snyder Cut, like it completely changes the movie. Okay, well if that's the case, then I'll go into it with an open mind as if I'm watching a brand new movie. And I'll take it for what it is, and I won't compare it to the original Justice League at all. But if it's like 90% the same Justice League movie, but it just adds 3 different scenes, then sorry, the comparisons are going to have to be made.
Yeah.
You know, but like if you truly change some scope in a movie and change some things, then yeah, let's take it and give you your chance. You know, but overall I'm happy for it. Most of the comic book world is juiced for it, except for those who really hate on Justice League.
Yeah.
You know? Or hated on the Justice League originally, so.
Like, I would have loved to see Darkseid just as much as anyone else.
Yeah. But Steppenwolf wasn't a bad...
okay.
Yeah.
Like, I love all of the new gods. Steppenwolf, fucking, not Mr. Terrific, Big Berta, all of them.
Yeah, I just wish that they would have done Steppenwolf. I don't know. The Steppenwolf, the CG on him is what set me off. Because you look like you had this badass CG body, and then just this kind of like, it looked like it was a computer screen face.
Mocap face, you know?
Yeah, a mocap face. And I'm like, that's not necessary. You could have CG'd the whole damn thing from top to bottom.
It would have been cool.
It would have been excellent. You know, but overall, like you said, good movie, but could have done a better job of making it more cohesive to the overall DCU storyline you're trying to tell. Because we all knew the minute we saw Darkseid or Steppenwolf, we all knew, okay, Darkseid, your Thanos of the
Darkseid
DCU.
is the main guy.
Yeah, Darkseid is your main guy. So really, to be honest with you, yeah, you're right. I would have loved to see Darkseid, but being the fact that he's your overall villain, think about it. Did you see Thanos in the original Avengers? Not until the tail end in a cutscene. You know, Thanos was slow rolled out to us, which is appropriate. You know, because it allowed you to tell all these smaller stories before you got to the overall arc.
Exactly.
You know, so that was a good move by DC to leave Darkseid out, but make it obvious that Darkseid is the one kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes. You know.
But therein lies the problem too, though, because then we have to go back to what we said on that. Like this isn't even a bigger picture anymore. This is a one-off, and then it's like, what would be the point of using Steppenwolf if this is a one-off when you can just use Darkseid?
Right.
And then you go into the idea of we're going to see the Supergirl. And if it is the Supergirl that we've been seeing in the show, then why couldn't we see?
Why couldn't we see?
I think was that. Why couldn't we see
Flash?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's completely feasible, as we literally saw Flash fucking do what Flash does in the Justice League movie.
Oh, and also,
and that's not to harp on it. It's to, like, you know what I mean. You know where I'm going with this.
And to be honest with you, if they're going to introduce. And this is going to sound really weird. If they're going to introduce a character from the Arrowverse into the DCEU, I think the best character that would allow them to make the transition would be Martian Manhunter. He's a high enough tier character that most people know him. But he's not any of your major Arrowverse characters.
That's true.
He's not Superman.
He's not someone that directly has his own show, but he's one of those bridging characters still.
Right. So he would be a great transition character to bring those characters into the DCEU. Now, if you want to say, oh, well, the way we're going to bring in Supergirl is that she's going to be brought in through a dimensional portal, so that you now have established that the DCEU exists in a different multiverse universe than the Arrowverse. Now you've got me. But, once again, here's where all of that doesn't make sense. Crisis.
Exactly.
Period. Crisis was supposed to collect everything down, and make it all into one universe. So, Flashpoint, exactly. Things wouldn't have been that. That's the whole thing about it. Things shouldn't have been the same. You know, but overall, I don't know. And then you talk about, if I was them, I would just start over from square one. Make Batman your Iron Man. Make the Batman with Robert Pattinson the Iron Man movie of your DCU, and basically wipe everything prior to that.
Exactly.
And then make Wonder Woman 2 the second movie. Give us another Aquaman movie for another solo movie, and then give us a Superman movie. Not Batman versus Superman.
And for the love of God.
A Superman movie.
For the love of God. Give me a Jon Stewart Green Lantern movie.
For fuck's sake. You know that they said that at the... Okay, so you have not watched friggin' Crisis. Bro, they're almost all on Netflix now. The only one that's not on there is Batwoman. That's it. All the other seasons are on there. So all the other episodes of Crisis are on there. But, what I'll say... But yeah, man, like they just like I said, Crisis. The DCEU needs to catch up. The movie universe needs to catch up with the Arrow universe. Period. They just do.
Not wrong. You're not wrong.
But speaking of using different characters, another character that's going to have to be replaced, you were telling us about, is Queen Mora from the Aquaman universe. She's going to have to be replaced now, because do you have any information on why the actress decided to drop out?
Yeah, I forget which movie. I don't remember which one off the top of my head, but all I know is Amber Heard, who was previously Mira in the Jason Momoa Aquaman movie, is going to be dropping out as Queen Mira in favor for another acting gig.
Okay.
And I'm not too torn up about that, really. But it's also like, I know they were planning an Aquaman 2, and that did get nixed earlier this year by Jason Momoa himself.
Yeah.
But it is interesting still to see that.
See, once again, just the more I hear about DC and how they're doing things over there at Warner Brothers Studios, the more out of whack DC is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, man, like we should have already had an Aquaman 2. Aquaman came out damn near 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying? We should have already had an Aquaman 2. Wonder Woman 2 should have already been released. You know, it's just, they're just disappointing me. Like, totally and over the top disappointing me.
And it's crazy because they have such a good cast of actors for each of them. Jason Momoa being Aquaman was so out of left fucking field, but it's one of my favorite decisions they've ever made.
Yeah. Now,
and somehow they managed to fuck that up even.
On a side note, that kind of brings us... Oh, wait a minute. We jumped over everything else, and we have not touched on Avatar. Here I am thinking we're getting close to the end, and we've already touched on... No, we haven't even touched on Avatar yet.
All right.
I was watching... after rewatching the first season, it left me saying one thing. M. Night Shyamalan, Shyamalan Shyamalama Ding Dong, whatever people want to call you. My brother, I appreciate your effort, but stay as far away as you can from the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, because you fucked that first movie up so goddamn bad.
So egregiously bad.
Like me and my homeboy were talking about it earlier today. I didn't even notice till I started watching it. They completely left Boomy out of the movie. And he's like a critical character in that first season.
Exactly. Literally, I was going to talk about that. My favorite fight in all of season 1, easily, the fight with Mad King Boomy.
Yeah.
Easy. And that's not even slightly hinted at.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even introduce the character at all. And I'm like, how do you look at that series and think to yourself, you know what? This is a character I just need to get rid of. Yeah, I know he's a critical character. I know he's the one who tells Aang that he has to fight the Fire Lord and sets him on his path. But, you know, he's just not that critical of a character. You know, I'm good. We don't need to put him in there.
That one single episode was able to portray so much shit about Aang's character.
Exactly.
It feels like all of the life that was in Aang's character that was put in with like 4 episodes alone was lost within a 2-hour time span.
Yep. 100%. And then when you take basically what amounted to the last half hour of the movie, which was supposed to be the final 2 episodes of season 1, when they get to the Southern Water Temple or Northern Water Temple.
Right.
Okay. But even at the Northern Water Temple, they left out a bunch of shit. Like I remember I was watching it a couple days ago, watching those last couple episodes, and I'm like, they left out the whole story arc where dude refuses to teach Katara because she's a girl, and in the Southern Water Tribe, women don't learn how to fight in waterbend, and she basically has to have a one-on-one fight with him in order to convince him to let her do it. You know, I'm like, that was critical. That was huge to the growth of the character of Katara.
Actually, here, I have a really good comparison.
What's that?
I recently was just able to watch Birds of Prey finally, right?
Right.
And for what it's worth, not even a bad movie.
No.
Not even a bad movie, right? Good scripting, well-timed events, you know. They couldn't put in Barbara Gordon, so they put in the forgettable cop.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I had one problem with that movie.
What's that?
And that was the Black Mask. One of my favorite villains in all of Batman's Rogues Gallery is the Black Mask. Roman Sionis was a badass dude. And the idea of the Black Mask was that he was obsessed with that big, clunky-ass mask, right? That was his favorite thing in the world. Until, much like what happened to the Joker, freak accident fighting Batman, the mask ended up melded to his flesh so that he permanently became the Black Mask.
Yeah.
And he lives fueled by hatred and greed, and nothing is more important to the Black Mask than money. I don't feel like I saw any of that in that movie. I feel like if that wasn't Ewan McGregor in that role, I would not have liked that. I can confidently say it was saved by Ewan McGregor's acting. And that's not even touching Victor Zsasz, who was who was Black Mask's gay lover in the movie, fucking confirmed. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that neither Black Mask nor Victor Zsasz have any association with each other in the comics, much less being gay lovers.
Right. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think I told you when I first saw the movie, I was not impressed. Like, I prefer the guy that played Zsasz on Gotham. I thought he played Zsasz perfectly. You know.
Exactly.
But but like I never liked the Zsasz from Birds of Prey. Yeah, my major focus on Birds of Prey. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, please go finish that.
No, I was gonna say my major focus was more so on Harley, but things like what you said with Black Mask and so on and so forth kind of stood out to me. And
I feel like Harley had a great role in that movie. All of the scenes fucking perfect for Harley as a character. And in the beginning, you feel sad and pitiful for her, and at the end, she looks like a complete badass.
Yep.
That's the good shit, right? But my main point of this was that it feels like they looked at the bare minimum aspects of the Black Mask character and sort of went with their own thing. And that more or less feels like that's what happened with the M. Night Shyamalan Last Airbender movie. Yes. It looks like he took the bare minimum aspects of each character and just sort of ran with them. All of the depth that Sokka had is broken down to a few bare minimum components, and all of that compassion and fun that Aang was all about was broken down to I'm the Airbender badass.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, just like what was it? I was telling somebody, I'm like, the fight scene. When you look at the fight scene, that final fight sequence, when the Fire Nation actually attacks the Northern Air Temple or the Northern Water Temple.
Mm.
When you look at that fight, you look at the 30 minutes that it was in the movie versus the 2 episodes it was, and even the last part of the episode was just too badass. Like you had all the special effects available to you. I don't understand why you couldn't have recreated that as close as possible. You know, you lost, like they tried to recreate the whole scene with at the pool when not Iroh, General fucking General Zhao, when he comes to kill the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, that scene was so much more intense in the animated show than it ever was in the movie.
Exactly.
Fucking bro, when General Zhao looked at him, not Zhao, General Iroh. When Iroh looked at him and said, "Whatever you do to that spirit, to the moon spirit, I will do to you tenfold." When he said that shit, I felt it. I felt it in my heart. And when he cut it, and when he killed the moon spirit, I was like, "Get him, Iroh, get him!" And I will say in the movie, like not just compare and contrast, but in the movie, you lost a lot of the development of the Zuko character in the movie. You know, and like I said, they just fumbled. But the show itself, the characters, how they developed them, like I'm juiced to get into season 2 next week. Why? Because that season 2 is when they introduced Toph, and she's like my favorite character.
Toph is one of, if not the best fucking character. All right.
Hell yeah. You know,
but you're completely right.
Oh, and no, I was just gonna say, and they kind of missed the boat on introducing on involving Appa more, because Appa was a lot more involved in a lot of the fight scenes in the show, in the animated series, than he was in the movie.
Exactly. I think in like the 3rd episode, right, you have the scene with where they first introduce General Zhao, right?
Yeah.
And he's interrogating Zuko, and Iroh is right next to him, right? That whole scene taught you more about Zuko than the whole fucking M. Night Shyamalan movie, by comparison. And that one scene did a great job at it, because you suddenly learned that Zuko is General not for glory, but to get his honor back because he's exiled.
Yep.
And then the scene finishes with him kicking down a table in anger, and the only thing Iroh says is, "Hey, bro, can I get more tea?" And that shit.
That's Iroh, baby.
Told me exactly. That shit told me more about the characters and made me more invested in them, and that was all that was needed. Now imagine that shit, but for every episode, and now you see why this show is as popular as it is.
Exactly. Like, I was looking at the development of everything, of Zuko, of Iroh just being there, you know, and just trying to guide Zuko down the right path, you know, but the respectfulness of Iroh allowing Zuko to make a lot of his own decisions, right or wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That was the key thing to it, is that Iroh always gave Zuko enough rope to do what he wanted to do, but also tried to teach him the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, like, yeah. And then you have the, like, they left out the entire thing, which I thought would have been pertinent for the movie, of when Iroh's sitting there talking to two of Zuko's soldiers. He's not talking to anybody in particular, and because they're like bitching about how much of a hard ass Zuko is. Right? And they're bitching about how much of a hard ass he is, and Iroh tells the story of what happened between Zuko and his father. In the movie, that's just a side note. You know, but in the show, they go into grand detail, you know, about what Zuko did, about why Zuko has that friggin' scar. You know, and just like I said, so much better storytelling. And if you were going to do a movie, you should have done it more along the lines of that. But overall, I genuinely enjoyed the first season. Now, we're almost done with this part of the show. I am also looking at the fact that I'm actually thinking about watching Legend of Korra. I've been completely, like, not really about watching Legend of Korra. Because I agree with this one girl, not for these reasons, but I'm just kind of still stuck on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm not ready to move on from that. You know, I don't really feel like I got closure with that series, you know, completely, because I wanted to see what happened after he defeated the Fire Lord. You know, how did Zuko and Aang's friendship grow? You know, how did Katara and Aang's relationship grow? You know, like, I wanted to see those things, and I felt like we were gypped of those things, you know. So I never really watched Korra. Korra came on right as I was hitting my mid-20s, and I was really going out more. I wasn't really spending as much time at home, so I didn't really have a lot of time to watch it.
Matter of timing, right?
Right. But I've been seeing a lot of stuff. Like I said, I just recently joined a Facebook group called the Avatar State. And all the talk has been about Legend of Korra, and all these people claiming that Legend of Korra is supposedly a better series than Avatar. I doubt that.
I'll put it to you this way: it's really comparable to that of the Clone Wars series and Rebels.
Okay.
Rebels is really good in a lot of ways, right?
Okay.
A lot of good ways. But I wouldn't outright say it's better than the original. Not for the sake of nostalgia, but it does take the same direction. You know how in Rebels it starts out a little more child friendly.
Yeah.
It starts out more child oriented than Clone Wars ever was, and it moves away from it as it goes on. But it definitely still has its own little niche community. And Korra is literally the same exact way. It starts out. And it gets a little more child-friendly as it begins, but as it goes on, it hits some darker notes. It is worth a watch, though.
Okay, so then I'll be tuning into that, but not before we finish Avatar: The Last Airbender. Maybe we'll continue after Avatar and review the 4 seasons of Korra as well.
Shit, I'm down.
All right.
Before we finish up on that, you want to tell me, like, your favorite scene? Do you got a favorite anything out of season 1 you want to talk about?
To be honest with you, my favorite sequence is when Aang, how do I put this right? Aang basically says, "Fuck it, I'm done with this shit." When they're at the Northern Water Temple, and he all of a sudden goes into his avatar state when what's his name kills the moon spirit, and he just goes into the water, and then you just see his bright little patch of water start moving all over the place, and he's just killing fools. And he turns into that big old monster, and he's walking through the city, and he's just like, "You done? You done? You done? Oh, you're water tribe, so you're cool. You're done. You're fucking done." And he goes out in front, and he's just like, "All you ships, get the fuck on." That's my favorite scene. Like literally, one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. Only other scene that comes close is the Agni Kai between General Zhao and Zuko. And not because of either one of them. It's because of General Iroh.
That final scene.
Oh yeah, when he
even
tries,
in exile, my nephew has more honor than you.
Yeah, but it's the scene when he turns around and dude lines up that badass kick, and he's like, "Ah!" And Iroh just steps in front of him like, "No." And I'm
catches
just
that shit like it's nothing.
That's when I knew Iroh was the shit. I was just like, okay, yeah, I get it. You don't fuck with Iroh. Like, no, I've kind of noticed throughout the entire series that nobody, even from the Fire Nation, really fucks with Iroh. You know, they show him respect. But, you know, they fuck with Zuko. They don't really fuck with Iroh. Now I see why. Because Iroh could light your ass up without even thinking about it while drinking some tea and playing some Mahjong. Like, he could just fuck you up. You know, like, shit. But yeah, so those I'd say those are my number 1 and 2. I'll give you favorite scenes in season 1. What about yourself?
I'm gonna have to agree with that. I love the Agni Kai. I love that scene just for the ending. Just the fact that he just catches the kick like it's nothing, and the fact that his final words in that whole scene were, "Even in exile, my nephew has more honor than you." Thanks for the Tito, bye.
Thanks for the Tito.
And that's it. Exactly. But aside from that, I have always fucking adored the fight with Boomy. The Mad King is an archetype that I adore, and I love earthbenders, and so them culminating with this big buff old man just launching boulders and creating tremors while simultaneously fucking with Aang. Like, Aang throws an attack, and he's like, somebody open a window. That's some Chad shit right there. Yes, it is. I love that scene to death, and I'd say that I love it just a little bit more than the culmination at the end.
For sure. That's respect.
Good shit.
All right, guys, so we're going to wrap it up on that. We're going to take our first commercial break and come back, and we got some wrestling to talk to you about.
Hell yeah, Sweaty Man.
Sweaty Man, exactly. And but make sure to tune in next week because we will be discussing the next season of Avatar. We'll probably be discussing the first couple of episodes of the series Heroes and Fringe. And there's probably a couple other things we'll be discussing as well. So be sure to tune in for that. Stay tuned with us for the wrestling talk, and thanks for listening in. Hold on, let me grab something real quick.
Poor dude.
There we go. All right. You're listening to the Cheap Pop Podcast right here on the 4Aces Presents Radio Network. Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you may find your favorite podcasts.
Interruption in progress. Now hijacking into ANS 2.0 immersion rig. Now simulating the amazing nerd show. Featuring comics.
And Batman's like, you're safe here and everything, but the Joker all of a sudden pulls out a gun and shoots himself.
Movies.
People fight with lightsabers. What the hell do you want? I mean, in every one of these movies, there's a lightsaber battle.
Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna rewatch it a million times.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, give me something more.
Wrestling.
That would be awesome. Oh my god, just a monster. Fans would be like, holy, what the hell's going on? What happened to Jericho?
Horror.
It starts off like any other like home invasion type of story, and then it just goes crazy.
And more.
Hey, this is Christian.
Hey, this is Damon.
And we are the Amazing Nerd Show.
Make sure to download us on all your favorite podcast platforms.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled DA, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
From the galactic depths of the comic book universe comes the ghosts of the stratosphere, ready to galvanize and energize your mind with the latest of comic book news and reviews. And why are you stopping me? Yes, that's much better. Hi, this is Andy Larson for Ghosts of the Stratosphere. Join me every week along with my co-hosts Rob Stewart and Chad Smith, as well as a cavalcade of fantastic comic book guests, as we dish out heaping helpings of the greatest and latest of comic book news and reviews. New shows posted every Tuesday with bonus shows every first Friday of the month. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher under Ghosts of the Stratosphere, as well as on our website, www.gotstratosphere.com. Hope to see you soon, folks.
We are all right, y'all, and we are back. All right, so now we're going to talk some grappling and some wrestling. All right, so first and foremost, we just want to kind of bow our heads and give a moment of silence. The wrestling world lost somebody special, to say the least, this last week. I believe the last show we did, we had talked about the fact that his body was missing and that they were on the search looking for him. Well, update, his body has been found and he has been officially deemed passed away. And the person I'm talking about, for those of you who don't know, came from one of my favorite tag teams ever in the WWE. A tag team by the name of Crime Time. Shad Gaspard, Big Man, and JTG Little Man through the late 90s and early 2000s rocked the WWE universe with their antics, their great promos. The closest thing I would say to that we have to them today is the Street Profits. That would be the closest.
Much more tame version.
Yeah, and a much more tamed and kind of corporate version. I'll never forget when they stole, who was it? Was it Jericho's TV?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stole the Jericho TV from the fucking highlight reel, right?
Yeah. So like I'll just never forget moments like that. But just to finish the story of Shad, basically what happened is there were the undercurrent from the tides was picking up at a beach that him and his son and his family were at in Los Angeles. And the Coast Guard was trying to get, and lifeguards were trying to get everybody back in. The Coast Guard actually got to Shad first. And he told them, no, forget me. Come back for me. Go get my son, his 10-year-old son. And they managed to go and save his son. But by the time they got back to him, he had been pulled under and he was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad to see him go. Like I said, that's a guy that if he wanted to come back into the wrestling industry, he still had matches left in the tank.
Exactly. Not even that. It's like a lot of people are throwing around the word hero a lot, and I'm 100% with it.
Yeah.
In the final moments of his life, he thought of nothing but his son. If that isn't heroic to you, then I don't know what is.
You ain't got a heart if that ain't heroic.
Exactly. That kid's gonna grow up knowing that his father was a WWE superstar and a fucking hero, and quite frankly, that is a heroic end if I've ever seen one.
There you go.
So, absolute props to the man. I was one of the kids that grew up with Crime Time. I remember them debuting. I remember the antics, dancing with Regal, stealing shit, and like, looking back on it, it was like, damn, that shit is pretty dark.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
And it's going to be odd knowing that what was a pillar of my childhood did die as a badass, though.
And to be honest with you, for the weeks and months recently, man, I had always hoped that Crime Time would be able to make a comeback, either with WWE, Impact, TNA, somebody. Impact, AEW, somebody. Bring those two back together and put them back in the ring, but it just never happened. And now it never will. Yo. That was my intro. As soon as I heard that, I knew shit was getting good.
Give me that. And It's crazy because I remember, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I remember seeing JTG and Shad Gaspard doing the Young Bucks pose, where they pose side by side, flexing and turning a little bit. And they had little shirts that said, instead of Bullet Club, they said Bullshit Club. And they were shooting shots at the Young Bucks. Yeah. And instantly I was like, I would fucking love to see Crime Time against the Young Bucks. And I don't know if that ever happened, but I never saw it. But I agree completely. There were so many dream matches and things that I would love to see them work on.
And Crime Time was the epitome, skill-wise, of the big man, small man tag team.
Absolutely.
You know, both
I think people
played their
forget
roles.
they were good in the ring.
Yep. Damn good in the ring. Oh, well. It sucks, but, you know, we are where we are, you know. Hopefully his family. Now, the one thing I will say about this is the one thing I'm getting sick and tired, or one thing I got sick and tired of seeing, was I literally saw a dude put up a thing saying that I guess several wrestlers and so on and so forth have donated money to Chad Gaspard and his family. And almost ripped this dude a new face because the dude says, why, yeah, whatever, dude, you know, they need to be devoting that money to families in need. You know, Shad, his family is rich, you know, they don't need that money. And it's like, you know what, dude, what the money that they're donating is to make sure that he has a decent funeral. And if you've ever had to be a part of what it cost to put a funeral together, let alone one that big, you understand that most of that money is probably going to go to pay, right, to make sure that he has a decent funeral. You know, and it's like, man, people need, they just get on my nerves. But overall, man, I'm happy to see people donating to him. And even one dude brought up, was like, Vince would never do this, bro. You don't know. Vince may have already donated a couple $100,000 to his family. Vince has just never been the dude to talk about it with the general public in those scenarios. Mm-hmm. You know how many older school wrestlers I've met over time? I was like, yeah, dude, Vince is taking care of me on multiple occasions. You know, do you know how many backstage stories I've heard about? Yeah, dude, when dude had this surgery, Vince paid for his family bills and took care of his family and paid for his surgery. You know, told him to put it all on him.
Was it Harley Race? I think it was Harley Race, yeah. Before Harley Race, before things started going on with him, Trevor Murdoch was like, Vince, we need help. In an instant, Vince had Harley Race on a helicopter to the fucking hospital.
Yeah. You know, people got to understand that. Like, this is bigger than all of that. You know, and even somebody as petty as Vince understands that. You know, so.
Exactly.
Like I said, we're
going to hear, though, that one John Cena, Jonathan Aloysius Cena, did put $40,000 forward for that.
Yep. Well, shit,
I can't say I'm surprised. It's
he came up
Mr. Make-A-Wish King.
I'm pretty sure, almost 100% sure, that his donation came from the heart. I'm not saying that you're saying he didn't, but I'm saying I'm pretty sure it did, because if you think about it, he came up at the same time with the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick when Crime Time was really big. You know, because I had always wanted Crime Time and John Cena to team up.
Do a little thing.
He was the Doctor of Thugonomics. I was like, oh, dude, that would be such a cool ass crew. You know, so you got to figure he probably had a connection with those two. You know, he may not have spoken to him recently, but I'm pretty sure he had kept in touch with them throughout the years. You know, and so he's got to be
that type of dude. Yeah.
You know, so okay. So that
before we dig into it, there actually was another death that I want to hit.
Oh,
before we go on,
what's her name from Japan? Sorry, she keeps slipping my mind because I didn't really watch her that much. But go on.
I don't blame you. Yeah, I was a big fan of her content. I love me some Stardom and some Shimmer. So nice. I saw peaks and throws of her, but for what it's worth, I would feel a bit disrespectful if we talked about Shad and not her.
Right? But, no, I'm sorry. Like I said, it just slipped my mind. So.
Oh yeah, no, it's not your fault. Not your fault, man. Don't worry about that. I'm not chastising you or anything. But yeah, no. I feel like that is an arguably just as dark situation. You know, she for those who don't know, she took her own life over some form of cyberbullying or something like that. But regardless, she took her own life for any circumstances.
Yeah.
And, you know, rest in peace, the poor girl. Wonderful worker.
Just a real quick note. If you bully somebody over the internet, you're you're even more of a pussy than the people who bully people face to face. Period.
Not even man enough to fucking face them down.
You're not even man enough to look them dead in their eye. Most people who attempt to bully people over the internet do it over the internet because they know good and well if they pulled their shit face to face, they get their ass whipped.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I even I damn near got into it with this dude in this AEW group because he's like, fuck all this shit. If you can't handle being talked down to and all of that on the internet, then you shouldn't be on the internet. No, fuck you. People shouldn't be acting like that on the internet. I'm like, no, dude.
It's not that hard to have some common fucking decency, dude.
Well, he's like, so imagine that. Somebody jumps on the internet and says, I'm a bad wrestler, so I go kill myself. No, dude, they were saying way worse shit than that to her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think people understand. It's not just like you're bad at your job. It's death threats. It's
right.
Kill yourself. It's real fucked up shit.
People don't get it. Like 99.9% of wrestlers get told they're a bad wrestler at some point. The Rock got told he was a bad wrestler at some point. Stone Cold Steve Austin got told. So trust me, there's not a wrestler alive on this planet that would end up killing themselves because somebody some stupid idiot over the internet just said you're a bad wrestler. There's not a single wrestler on this planet that ever would. So that's what always led me to believe that whatever they were saying to her was far worse than you're just a bad wrestler. You
exactly,
know,
and for that, that is the worst part.
You know, yeah, exactly. It kills me because people shouldn't be. Because I let people know. Oh, you want to bully my daughter over the internet? Good, and you can get this 300-pound black dude banging on your door. Go for it.
Yes, sir.
Because I can and will find you. And don't think I'll put down a single thing. I'll take weeks off of work just to make sure I can find you and then come beat your ass. Fuck with my daughter and see what the bear does. I'll just leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
And she got uncles, too.
Roll this one.
Who are more than willing to go for the flight with me. So yeah.
Two-way ticket.
Just be careful who you bullying on the internet because you never know who may come knocking at your door because of it. Anyway,
all right, let's move on. Want to hit Double or Nothing first? Or you want to hit?
Yeah, let's just to bring a little bit more lightheartedness before we dig into the darkness that is that dark side of the ring. Before we dig back into that, so let's go ahead and do Double or Nothing. I'll say this. Overall, I give it a B+. But it wasn't the best. Really, I hate to say this because I know this was like a lot of people's favorite match and all that. I just wasn't as impressed as everybody else was with the Stadium Stampede match.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't. I thought it had great moments. But I thought as a match as a whole, like, really, to be honest with you, the first question that came to mind is, why the fuck y'all set up a ring out there anyway? Didn't nobody get in the ring? Didn't nobody really use the ring? So why the fuck was the ring there?
What's the fucking point?
You know, what was the fucking point? You might as well just said, okay, we're just gonna let the guys loose on a football field and have them go at it. I would rather you said that than, oh, we're gonna set up a ring in the middle of the field and nothing ever happens in the actual ring. The ring was just useless. It was set up there for no reason.
That's fair. That's
you
fair.
Know, like it had moments, but as a whole, I just wasn't super impressed with it. Meaning, like, I didn't think it was the greatest match ever. Just
fucking
like
thing ever. Yeah.
Right. Just like with the opening match, the ladder match, the Casino Royale match. I was happy with the winner. I was happy Brian Cage won. I fully think he deserves a shot.
I'm personally not a big fan of seeing someone go straight to the top of the card.
Well, I put it to you like this:
fucking Brian Cage.
I don't mind it happening because I know he's not going to win it.
Yeah.
I don't mind him getting the title shot because you want more eyes on AEW, but I don't. You know, I also know there's no way whoever has the belt is dropping it to him. You know, in his first title match, no, it's not going to happen.
Look at our current champions now are among, in terms of single titles, we have Cody and we have Moxley. Right. Can you see either of those men putting Cage over in the current state?
No, not at all.
Fuck no.
But the only issue that I had with it was the setup of it. I personally would have rather all 9 competitors, with the exception maybe for Brian Cage, all 9 competitors, including Brian Cage, in the ring from the first bell. Bringing in somebody new every 2 minutes was like, because really, if I'm one of the first 2 wrestlers, I go grab a kendo stick, I hit the dude who's standing across the ring with me with a kendo stick, I clothesline him out the ring, I set myself up a ladder, and I climb up and I go grab it, and the match is over. Before the third person even comes out, match is over.
Simple. Done.
At least
it ruins that the realistic tone that AEW seems to be going with.
Right. And so that's where I just have a small issue with it. But overall, I enjoyed it. Like I wasn't upset about Cody winning the TNT title. It made sense to me.
Bro, fucking Mike Tyson's reaction to fucking Lance Archer, bro. The face.
Yeah. Oh no, dude. The one that got me is when Jake Roberts. You're still a damn good actor, brother.
Okay.
I got to give you credit. Because when he came out with that bag and Tyson took off the shirt and was like, "Urgh," and Roberts was like, "Oh no, I don't want none of you. I don't want none of you." I was just like, "Oh hell no, dude. No, he didn't." Even though I'll be honest, when Mike took off that shirt, I was like, "Damn, I wouldn't want none of Mike either." Like for being like 50, I think he's like 56 or something like that, 56, 57 years old. For being as old as he is, I don't want none of that, Grandpa. Mike could still knock you out in a punch.
It's weird, man, because I remember a while back seeing that interview where Mike Tyson was, like, openly fucking crying, and he was like, I have a hard time remembering that, like, I'm violent, and I'm angry, and I like to hurt things, but my body can't keep up with it anymore.
Yeah.
And now you see him looking like he's ready to rip somebody's fucking head off again.
And talking about getting back in the ring again on top of that.
Exactly. Another cool little spot though was when the Cody Rhodes doing the DDT in front of Roberts, and then Lance Archer doing the spine buster in front of Arn Anderson.
Yeah,
like the innovators of said moves.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Like it's
I dig that shit. I thought it was a real good match.
I same here.
What would you say was match of the night for you though?
I'll say Cody versus Archer.
Really?
Yeah. Only because of the fact that I can only think of 3 matches at this point in time. I can only think outside of the Casino Royale and the Stampede match. I can only think about. Oh well, no. Didn't Moxley take on?
I was gonna say Moxley and oh my god, Brody Lee.
Yeah, Brody Lee.
There we go.
I was impressed with that
Moxley
match.
took on Brody Lee. Then there was the 2 women's matches.
Yeah.
And then there was MJF versus Jungle Boy.
That match impressed me. I wouldn't call it match of the night, but that match impressed me.
Okay, personally for me, that was match of the night. I loved all of the little bits of storytelling.
Yeah.
It started with fucking Jungle Boy out-wrestling the dick off of MJF. And then MJF is like, all right, heel time, and he starts working the arm for the rest of the match. I dug that shit. And then I love me some throw some ref in the haywire.
I'll say it's one of those type of things where I don't like MJF. I hate seeing him win all the time. But my major issue with him has actually nothing to do with him. I don't like Wardlow. Yeah. I think MJF would be Wardlow, the bodyguard dude.
Yeah.
I just think Wardlow would be better served on his own, and I think MJF would be such a better character without Wardlow. Not every heel needs some bodyguard to protect him, to make him a good heel.
It's always good to have that depth.
Yeah.
But it feels less like Shawn Michaels and Diesel and feels more like Christian and Tyson Tomko.
Bingo! The man just said it perfect. It's the truth. I think just like Tomko, I thought Tomko would have been better off on his own. and not paired with Christian. You know, and Christian would have been better off on his own because Christian was a good talker anyway. But yeah, same
what
thing.
What the fuck
MJF.
isn't Christian good at?
You know, MJF and Wardlow, bro. Like, they had the perfect opportunity. When MJF was out, they could have brought MJF back. Had Wardlow be like, dude, you know what? I figured out while you were gone, I could do this shit on my own. Peace. You know, it didn't have to be a violent breakup or anything like that. But they could, you know, they could have easily just separated them during that time.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
I think MJF is much better served as a heel when he's alone and left to his own devices.
Yep.
It makes him look much more compelling as a heel. And I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the heel is using his bodyguard to win fucking gag. It's almost 40 years old now.
Yep. Oh, that was the other thing. Okay, so this was the only, even though I picked Cody versus Lance as match of the night, this was the only thing that I had wrong with that match. Cody shouldn't have won that match clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still keep Lance Archer looking a little bit strong. The fact that it took 2 crossroads in order to beat him. But at the end of the day, Cody never should have beaten the Murder Hawk clean.
Yeah, it feels less like Hogan overcoming the bad guy and more or less like Cody survived.
Right. You know, and so I'm like, I think it would have both been better off. I'm not saying Cody had to outright cheat, but Cody doing something sneaky to get an upper hand to get that victory would have made more sense than the way that they did it. You know, a nut shot when the ref wasn't looking or something would have made more sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Shit! Wait, we forgot about Goldust versus Shawn Spears.
Yeah, that match was great to watch, but it was really, really predictable.
Yeah.
You know, like from the moment that Shawn Spears called him out and was like, "Oh, Dustin's not going to be here," I'm like, "Dustin's coming back for that match. We're not going to hear anything from Dustin. It's going to be this big old build-up, and then Dustin's going to come out." And sure enough, it's what happened.
Dustin came out.
And then, you know, Dustin came out and beat him up and all that. I don't know. Like I said, I was happy with it. Overall, it was a funny match. It was great, you know, what I call break match, you know, a chance for me to get up and go get you know, something to drink, something to eat. But I just wasn't really impressed with it overall as a match or a storyline.
Yeah, it isn't the most compelling thing in the world in ring or story-wise, but come on. Tully Blanchard boxers, bro.
Yeah, that was hilarious. That was hilarious. Another thing that I got to speak on real quick. AEW, stop making everybody that's feuding with Cody go through Dustin to get to him. Stop making everybody that's calling out Cody have to go through Dustin to get to him. It's getting old.
Yeah, like we get it. They're brothers. They had the close moment at the first Double or Nothing. Leave it there, goddammit.
Exactly. But have you noticed that? Everybody that Cody is feuded with, the match right before they face Cody, they have a match with Dustin.
You have to go through Dustin first.
Like,
yeah.
It's
a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it. But aside from that, I feel like the show was a B+ or an A at absolute least. All the matches were good.
For sure.
In some way, shape, or form. Even the weaker matches. The Nyla Rose match and I forgot who she faced off
Hikaru
with.
Shida,
but
the new AEW Women's Champion, Hikaru Shida.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed that. The other women's match to me was able to more show off the problems I have with the women's division. It was pretty counterintuitive, actually, but the one with Nyla Rose, I enjoyed that match.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty decent match. And I think it came more so from Nyla Rose isn't super green like a lot of the ladies that they put in the ring, you know, on Wednesday nights. And Hikaru Shida isn't super green. So you got two people that knew how to work a match and make it look good. And so you got kind of the best of the AEW's women's division, you know. And like I said, I like the fact that Shida won too, because as much as I like Nyla Rose, she's had the belt for 3 months. It's time for a champion change.
Switch it up.
You know, and so highly impressed with that match. But like I said, overall I give it a B+, just because I wasn't as impressed as most with the Stadium Stampede match. But you give it an A?
Yeah, I give it an A+. I feel it. But aside from that, I feel like the show was a B+. Or an A at absolute least. All the matches were good. Yeah, I give it an A flat. An A flat.
Right on. All right. So now back to the kind of dark side of the ring, no pun intended. For those of you who've been watching, like, they're almost done with this season, the dark side of the ring, but when they opened up, they started out with a bang. And they opened up this season, episode 1 and 2 was a 2-part series on it was listed as the story of Benoit. But just like with a lot of stories, you can't tell the story of Benoit without adding in the story of a few other people like Eddie Guerrero in particular.
Yeah. They sort of go hand in hand.
Right. And that's what we got. Was a story that told the complete story of what went on with Chris Benoit. And let me tell you this. I never really had a lot of negative thoughts. You know, I was one of those people that was pissed off, you know, back when it happened, that every news place was like, steroids, it was roid rage, it was roid rage, it was roid rage. Oh, look at all these wrestlers doing steroids.
Time to fucking ruin the wrestling business, guys.
And I think this thing kind of shone a light on the fact that steroids may have played a part, but they weren't the major reason or issue why what happened. It was a lot more than that. You know, for those of you who don't know the complete story, basically, just to get it out the way, Chris Benoit was a wrestler for WWE, and he, over a 3-day period of time, he took his wife's life in a very violent and just horrible manner. You wouldn't ever want anybody to die like that. He took his son's life in a little bit more, how do you say, in a little bit more of a kind way, as you know, and as much as you can be kind when killing somebody.
It was much less violent.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he took his own life. And now, mind you, one of the major key points that I bring up to people when I talk about it as to why it wasn't roid rage is the fact that basically, according to the coroner's reports in the timeline, he killed his wife on Friday night, he killed his son on Saturday night, and then he proceeded to kill himself on Sunday night. I've known people who roid raged before. I've known wrestlers who are on roids. It doesn't happen like that, folks. It's never that cold, calculated, and thought out when it happens. It's blind rage. Roid rage is blind rage. Have you ever been angry at somebody and so mad that you just had to hit them, and no matter whether you told yourself not to or not, you felt your arm going to swing on them? That's roid rage. You're not in control. This man was in control. Now, as much as everybody listens to that and goes, well, fuck him then, you know, he did this shit on purpose. You got to understand exactly how broken that man was. Mentally.
Not emotionally, but physically broken.
Yeah. And so... go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish real quick.
No, I was just going to say...
Go.
And I think a lot of his brokenness at the time in which he committed these crimes had to do with Eddie's death.
Mm-hmm.
When you start seeing a lot of how close him and Eddie were, you know, you listen to the other wrestlers talk about it. Eddie was the only person that he really talked to. Eddie was the only person that he really opened up around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Eddie died. Trust me, the rest of the wrestling world was just as shocked as Benoit. Maybe not as hurt, but just as shocked as he was when Eddie died. And another factoid I learned in that thing is I never knew that Eddie died in Chavo's arms.
Yeah.
I didn't
know that.
People
always throw around so many things why Chavo does all the things Eddie does, and he emulates him the way he does. Eddie died in his arms. Eddie's final breath was vividly described by Chavo.
Oh, yeah. I can honestly say this, man. After watching that 2-part series, because I watched them back to back, I binge watched them. I had no tears left. I had no tears left. I couldn't cry anymore. I had cried so damn hard watching all of that. And then you can ask Alpha. I told him, bro, I can't watch wrestling for the rest of the day. Like, I can't watch anything involving wrestling for the rest of the day. Like, I just can't. because it just hit me that hard watching all of it. Look, watching the whole story as a whole, it just hit me that hard.
I agree completely. I never was able to see the way that it really affected wrestling. I've always had my own opinions on it, much like everyone else. But only now did I realize, like, this shit really tore down the wrestling business in a lot of ways. And half the reason Vince has the rules in play that he has now are because of both Eddie and Chris.
Yeah.
The thing that I've always talked about when this comes into mind was the state that Chris Benoit's brain his brain was in when the time everything happened in.
Yeah.
That was at the culmination of his 25-year plus career, right?
Yep.
And from day one of his career, what was his tagline move?
Oh, the flying headbutt.
Exactly. And so Harley Race creates the move and tells everyone from that point on, don't use the fucking move. It damages your body beyond belief.
Yep.
Dynamite Kid uses the move, and look where it landed Dynamite Kid.
Yep.
Chris Benoit uses the move, and what it did was give him so many concussions left and right that he got brain damage.
CTE.
And exactly. And I don't know if you know this, but the frontal lobe of your brain is the main thing used for decision making.
Yeah.
If you're diving from the top rope to headbutt someone, where are you going to hit your fucking head at?
Oh, your frontal lobe's getting
The
jacked
front
every
of-
time.
Exactly. So this dude was nogging his fucking frontal lobe around week after week after week after week after week. That does shit to your brain. That does shit to the way that you think and the way you process things. So someone in their right mind, when they're pissed off, drunk, their testosterone levels are 3 times that of a regular human being, that you just lost your only and your closest friend, and you have a horrible relationship with your wife in that moment.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to sit there and think, wow, I shouldn't kill them. I shouldn't ever hurt them. I shouldn't do this. But if your brain is damaged and you're angry, all those walls, all those obstacles, those things put in place to stop you from doing that, you physically don't have those there. Mm-hmm. You're more or less an animal. You're a wild man. That's like holding a dog for doing something bad. Would you blame a dog for doing something? Yes, you would, but only to a certain extent, because you know that it's not in its right mind to.
Right.
It was cold and it was calculated, but you have to keep in mind that he was practically fucking bad shit by the time that happened, and that's what I've always talked about, and watching that almost pretty much confirmed that to me. It was a culmination of a lot of things, but medically, it was confirmed that by the time that they were able to fully conduct an in-depth search on his brain, it was in the state of an 80-year-old man with severe manic Alzheimer's.
That's insane.
I don't know about you, but that says a lot to the level of thinking process that he had, or the lack of thinking process, more like. And I'm not glorifying him. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it wasn't his fault. It completely was his fault, and it was planned and meticulous. But you got to keep in mind that he wasn't even mentally in the place to be looking at something and fully decide what was the right decision or not.
Well, like we always say in one of my sports groups when we're talking about different debates, context matters.
Exactly.
And I think that they put a lot of context on the Chris Benoit situation that wasn't there before. So, like, one of my favorite lines is actually from the very, very beginning of the show. It's like literally in the intro. They're talking all the different wrestlers.
First 15 seconds.
Yeah. And Chris Jericho says, if you're one of those people that thinks that what we're doing here is glorifying a murderer, stop watching now. Just stop watching now, because you're not going to like what you see. Because he brought it up. He goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, you guys got to understand, and that's what a lot of them were saying, is that the guy that did that, that's not the Chris that they knew. The Chris that they knew loved his sons and would never hurt them. You know, and the thing that really had me bawling was listening to David Benoit talk about being bullied and messed with and all of that by kids after what happened with his dad. I'm just like, wow, dude. Like, that's just insane to me.
No, I genuinely, I couldn't help myself when he described the moment that they told that to him. Like, you can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, that kid is the last of the Benoit family. Yeah. And I can't imagine what that's like.
Man, I couldn't imagine, and that was the part that broke my heart the most and had me like tears streaming down my face. It's just imagining being a fucking, imagine being a fucking kid and being told that your dad is dead. And not only is he dead, but your dad just killed your stepmother and your stepbrother in the process. Not in an accident. He literally killed them himself. You couldn't process that. Because that's not the dad you know. That's not the dad you knew. You know, and it's just like, I couldn't imagine attempting to process that. And just my entire heart went out to him. Because that was just, tragic. Tragic.
Hard, man. But everything being said, though, there is one thing that I want to make clear, though.
Yeah.
It is important to separate art from the artist sometimes. And this, for me, is one of those blaring times.
Yep.
It is completely and utterly feasible to look at Chris Benoit and say, you're a fucked up human for that, but your body of work is still incredibly impressive.
No. Now, I agree with Jericho's sentiment at the tail end of the show when he said, do I feel that Chris Benoit should be put in the...
Oh, Jim Ross. That was Jim Ross.
No. That was Jericho, wasn't it? That was saying... Oh, no, you're right. It was Jim Ross that said, do I feel that he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame? And he was like, absolutely not. And the sad thing about it is, I agree. Like, I understand, and I respect and I admire his body of work. But I completely agree that, unfortunately, his last acts as a human being, no. He shouldn't be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, does that mean we should all hate him and all that and all that? No, it doesn't mean that.
No.
But I do agree that he doesn't belong in there. But, here's the other side of it, too, and I think I told you about this a couple days after I finished watching it. I now fully understand Vince McMahon and the moves that he made.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly what you mean. When I walked away from it, I was like, damn, all of Vince's rules and everything that is in play right now can be traced back to Eddie and Chris.
Yep.
Almost entirely, damn near.
Because I'm like... Well, that not just that, but I also look at the fact that everybody got on Vince about the fact that he did that tribute show, and then 2 days later, like, basically wiped Benoit from the history of WWE altogether, and pro wrestling altogether. Wasn't to be mentioned, talked about, nothing. And people are like, that's hella fucking cold. That dude gave his blood, sweat, and tears. No. It's not even about that. It's not even about that. As a businessman, something like that goes down with one of your employees, you immediately have to sever ties and separate yourself from that scenario as far as possible. I don't care what nobody says. As a businessman, that's just the way it is. Okay?
You can't hold your connections like that because then you're held liable for them.
Exactly. Nobody understood that people didn't get the fucking fact that, like, he did the tribute show because at the time, all he knew, the only details he had, all he knew was that one of the wrestlers that had worked and given his blood, sweat, and tears for him had passed away. And his family passed away with him. That's all he knew. They didn't have any of the details.
It pisses me off more when people look at the way Vince defended himself and they're like, oh, he's defending Chris for what he did. No. When Vince went out there and was talking about, no, this isn't roid rage, and he gave a litany of evidence to prove that, that wasn't to prove that Chris Benoit didn't do steroids. It was to prove that he wasn't giving his employees steroids or letting them use steroids.
And
it wasn't about defending Chris. It was about, as a businessman, you can't put out the image that you're doing anything like that.
And he had just come off the late 90s congressional hearings about people in WWF doing steroids. Or the late 80s, early 90s. He had just come off of that, like 10 years earlier. So, of course, exactly. Vince tried to put as much distance between him and that Benoit situation as possible. Now, the one thing I will say is this. I have nothing against the Benoit family, and I understand where they were coming from, and Nancy's family as well, his wife's family as well. I understand where they were coming from. But I'm sorry. There was one issue that I had with the documentary, and that was the fact that on one end, they say... on one end, they tell the story about how JR attempted to come to Nancy's funeral and was basically told since he was from WWE, it didn't matter to him and Nancy had a personal relationship. He wasn't wanted there. He didn't need to be there.
And exactly, he wasn't even there for that. He was there because Jim Ross has personally said that he knew Benoit and he watched his career grow.
And so I'm like, but after you tell them that, what do you expect them to do? Of course nobody from WWE contacted you. You pretty much told them you didn't want nothing to do with them. So of course nobody from WWE contacted them. And that was the only part that I didn't like, is that they're sitting there like, did anybody from WWE? Nope, nobody from WWE contacted me. Nobody even tried. How do you know there weren't people that wanted to, but after hearing the story of what happened to JR when he tried to go and talk to y'all, that the same thing wouldn't happen to them?
Exactly. They were aggravated that they were clearly aggravated that nobody except Chavo and Chris had reached out to them, but they made such a villain out of JR for showing up to pay his respects.
Yeah, why would Vince or anybody else show up to do that? If that's the response that he got. And so I'm just like I said, it's just a matter of, I just like the fact that everything's being put into perspective, but it's pissing me off because it was pissing me off because, like you said, it highlighted that Vince is this bad guy, when in reality, Vince McMahon is a bad guy in certain aspects, but he wasn't in this particular one. I'll just say it like that.
You can't tell me that Vince McMahon personally didn't take a hit from this.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand. Vince wanted Eddie to win the world championship when Eddie didn't want to win the world championship.
Yeah.
I said that right.
Yep.
Eddie did not want to win the world championship, but Vince wanted that.
Yep.
Half because he knew the people were hot, white fucking hot for Eddie, but because he loved the shit out of Eddie.
Oh, yeah. That man loved him some Eddie. Yeah.
Exactly. You can't say that Vince himself personally hasn't taken a hit from this too. I hate the idea that people walk into this villainizing Vince as they do everyone else. But to the point itself, though, I agree completely. It feels hypocritical of them to push away the only one and only person that reached out from WWE and then complain that WWE doesn't want to reach out.
Exactly. So, but that was the last thing I kind of wanted to say about that, was just that as much as I'm not trying to disrespect the Benoit family, I just thought that was wrong.
Of course, yeah.
As far as that particular thing. Chris Jericho's role and all of that was awesome. Because technically Chris was that guy that had access to Eddie and Benoit on a regular basis and knew them better than anybody else. So who better to have on there talking than Chris Jericho?
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so the last thing, what was it? Oh, so we'll just hop on some, because we don't got much time. We'll just hop on some quick things. AEW, liked what I saw last week. WWE, bravo on adding NXT superstars as fans to the crowd to add a little bit more life to the show. It never really upset me that they didn't have fans in the first place. I was enjoying it, but bravo to WWE on going that route. What else?
We have a new United States champion, do we not?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. The one, the only, Apollo Crews. And I think we're seeing the culmination of a storyline that was supposed to culminate a few weeks back when he got that United States shot, the United States Championship shot. I did like the transition of Austin Theory this week on Raw. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He went from being one of Zelina Vega's boys to all of a sudden now he's one of Seth Rollins' boys.
Yeah, it was a really interesting little move. We've talked about that little group before, and Austin Theory definitely was the black sheep of that group. But Austin Theory is this weird little case because I feel like there is a spot for Austin Creed, and there's potential within him, but I don't know exactly where it's at yet. But it's clear that he is a good fucking heel.
Right.
But I'm interested in the direction they're going to take with him, and I liked Apollo actually winning something cohesively and consistently. Because I don't know about you, but if you look back on the past few years, you can see all these nice little moments where they sort of pushed Apollo and then stopped.
Yeah.
And then did it again a year later and then stopped.
And that's huge because it tells you that Apollo Crews has the talent and they want to push him, but things keep coming up where he doesn't end up fully seeing the full extent of the push. I'm kind of liking the Bobby Lashley MVP grouping. I like the fact that Lashley's getting a title shot. Like
if this is what it takes to get Lashley against McIntyre for the title, then
let's do it.
Who am I to complain?
Once again, though, predictability. I saw Nia Jax as being the winner of that particular fucking that triple threat match from the get-go. Like as soon as they announced who the participants are, all right, I already eliminated Charlotte Flair because she has the NXT title. So I was like, okay, only way that works is if they're planning on Charlotte dropping the belt at In Your House and then having her win the Raw title on at Backlash. But I had eliminated Charlotte immediately, which left it to Natalya and Nia Jax, and I'm like, I don't really see Natalya.
No, I gotta give it to Natalya. Come on.
Exactly. I don't see Natalya getting that push right now. So it left me with the conclusion of the person who ended up winning, which was Nia Jax.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm really hoping. Oh, I forgot to say, bro, I get a pay-per-view for my birthday. In Your House is right on my birthday.
Oh, heck yeah!
So exactly. So I'm hoping for my birthday I get to see Charlotte Flair lose the fucking title.
I think the plan is to have her drop it back to Rhea Ripley because I believe the only reason why Rhea Ripley had to drop it is because she was flying back home and she was going to have some issues getting back with all the COVID stuff.
And it's the same reason that people like Jordan Devlin and Pete Dunne haven't been seen since.
Yeah. So I am looking forward to tomorrow night's match between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher in the cage.
Oh my God,
that's going to be great.
The ref, bro. See who the ref's going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be Kurt Angle.
I think this is it. I think this is me and you have been waiting on this shit for a long time, but I think this is going to be the trigger pull on the amateur style fight.
Hell yeah. I can't wait for it. It's going to be great.
Because I don't know if you've seen Thatcher's work in Bloodsport. Do you know who Josh Barnett is?
Know the name, can't really put a face to it right now, but okay.
Yeah, Josh Barnett is a hard motherfucker, but he runs this, I think it's yearly now, this yearly little show called Bloodsport, right? And in Bloodsport, they more or less beat the living dog shit out of each other. It's like half shoot, half work, right?
Okay.
Which is already fucking crazy as it is, but he gets some off-the-wall bastards Like Minoru Suzuki, he's getting Moxley for Bloodsport 3 actually.
Nice.
And he had a Killer Cross, who's now Karrion Cross. He had Killer Cross in Bloodsport 1 and 2. But Thatcher was in 1, and I remember seeing Thatcher beat the living hell out of someone in that amateur style match. So I'm really hyped up for this.
Heck yeah. You get me even more hyped up about it.
Exactly. I'm ready. I know they're going to tear each other's heads off. Because I've seen Matt Riddle's actual, like, legitimate Bellator shit. I don't know if you have.
No, I have not.
Absolutely worth it. It's funny because, like, Matt Riddle is an incredible in-ring performer, and then he goes in that cage and he wins, and then gets his win overturned because he doesn't want to stop smoking weed. Madman. I love him.
Just like RVD, you ain't stopping me from smoking what I want to smoke. Let it go.
that dude really chose the ganja over that fucking double ECW and WWE title reign. Him and the fucking Sabu crazy asses. Alright. Is that everything?
I'm pretty sure that is, my brother. I'm pretty sure that is. So, all right. So we will call it a day on that note. I will fix my damn TV, which doesn't seem to want to connect to the internet anymore, which is unfortunate for me because that's the only way I can watch anything on the internet. Anyway. But yeah, guys, thanks for listening in. Like I said, next week we're probably going to cover, we're looking at the Bruiser Brody episode of Dark Side of the Ring, right?
Yes, sir.
We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit more Raw, SmackDown Live, NXT. Alpha, you got a Wrestler of the Week for this week?
Not yet, actually. I'm working on something. I'll bring that in next week, though. I got you.
And then we'll be looking at episode 2 of Stargirl, the next episode of DC's Legends, and then we'll also be taking a look at Avatar Season 2, as well as the first season. Are we doing the first season or just the first few episodes of the other shows?
What else is there?
Heroes and Fringe were the other ones that I was watching.
We'll hit the first few episodes of those first.
Okay, we'll do the first few episodes of Heroes.
We'll crunch that in with the rest.
Yeah, and or Fringe. And so be sure to tune in next week. We got a lot of content, a lot of great stuff. But that's going to do it for us this week right here on the Cheap Pop Podcast. Be sure to keep listening in because later this week we have Lovely Radio on Thursday, K-Double's 5th Period Music Class on Friday night, which I'm going to be breaking into 2000s music now. Hell yeah. And then Saturday we got Mr. Deacon. Sunday we'll have the next episode of Cheap Pop. We should be back to being on Sundays again till the next pay-per-view. Cheap Pop and Brick House, Inspiration Radio, and Now versus Then, and then the newest episode of Dirty Talk 101 tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, but next Monday night. So y'all keep listening in. We got a lot of great shows for you. Alpha, any last words, or do you got a Wrestler of the Week?
Oh no, I don't have a Wrestler of the Week.
Not this week.
That for next week. Don't worry, I got
save that for next week then. Y'all be sure to keep listening in. What's up?
You know how it goes.
Yep.
My people, please be safe. Take care of yourselves.